Welcome, everyone, to Courageous Creative Conquerors. This is Jean Voice Dart. It's my belief that everyone has a gift of creative expression. We were born to express ourselves to stay healthy and happy. Whether you are planting a garden, writing a story, building a cabinet, sewing a scarf, or singing a song, what matters is expressing from the heart. And the creative and expressive arts are a healthy coping strategy that shifts us from trauma to triumph. So join me as we listen and learn key tips and techniques from our special guest and courageous creative conqueror. My special guest today is LeAnn Caseria, watercolor pen and ink artist, photographer, and creative writer. Hi everyone, I'm Jean Voice Dart, and this is Courageous Creative Conquerors, and my special guest today is LeAnn Caseria, and she's so multi-talented. She's particularly talented as a watercolor artist, pen and ink and pencil, colored pencil, and photographer, and she's going to share with us her beautiful artwork and also her creative journey as an artist. Welcome, LeAnn.
Thank you, Jean. Thanks for having me on. I feel like this is such an honor.
It's my pleasure and honor to have you here. And let's start off just talking a little bit about your life journey, artist life. Starting with childhood, we have a few photos here that we're going to share, and you can talk us through that. Okay, let's take a look at this first photo here. Who are these beautiful people here?
So that is Easter when I was, I don't know, 2 or 3. My brother and I, and it's funny what you remember and don't remember from when you're little. I must have been very impressed with that little parasol umbrella because I still remember it.
You just look beautiful there. Yeah, that's so sweet. Okay, and we're going to find out more about your brother too. And here you are, a little bit older, I think maybe.
I think probably be about 3. And what I love about this photo is it shows my grandparents smiling. In a lot of the old photos, they, just back then they didn't always smile. And
Yeah.
I was so young when they passed that I don't have a lot of memories from them, but I just love seeing the smiles on their faces and how happy.
And look at you smiling. That's just pure joy right there. Like, I'm so happy to be here with Grandma and Grandpa.
Must have been the pearls. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we grew up on a farm. We were on a farm until this year. This was the year that I was in 3rd grade. And there was a horrific flood. And in the distance, you'll see our farmhouse. My dad was a dairy farmer. And the spring thaw was coming, and they were rebuilding the river bridge that was right next to our farm. He had 250 acres on the Nooksack River. And they were rebuilding the bridge, and they had pilings that blocked the river. And when the ice thawed and came down the river, it couldn't get through. And there was these huge ice jams that broke all the dikes. And
oh my goodness. Yeah.
that is a cow that drowned. I think my dad lost over 40 cattle. My memories were waking up in the dark and Mom and Dad putting my brother and I in the car in our pajamas. And the water at that point was coming into the car. That's how high it was. It got 3 feet high in the house. So it was deeper than that outside.
So here are your parents here. Tell me a little bit more about this flood.
So my parents had gone back down to try to save as much as they could, not knowing how high the water would get. My mom was in the home trying to get things up off the floor. not realizing that there was soon to be 3 feet of water in the house. My dad was across the road trying to save the livestock. And at one point, he was on top of the milk house. And
Oh,
my mom was still in the house, and they had to get them both out by helicopter because he could not get across the road to
oh,
her. And this picture is after the water's gone down and the ice is still everywhere. And it was a really hard time because we never went back to live at the farm. My parents lost so much, and we moved, and they still had animals after that. But my dad was never really a dairy farmer like he had been before.
oh my goodness. And these kinds of traumatic events really affect us later in life. Even you're so small, it's something that internally you might remember this,
Yeah,
emotionally. Yeah.
going back, and
Yeah.
I had no clothes, I had no toys, I had no, the Red Cross was down there passing out sandwiches, and you just,
And
I,
many people are going through that now with
mm,
all of the weather, all that's happening. So that was a major event in your life. Let's look forward here at this next photo. And what are you doing here? It looks like you're fishing.
so these are happier memories. I've always loved the water, and that's me fishing off the dock. We had a little 21-foot boat, and we went everywheres in that little boat. When I think back, it looks very small now, but yeah, we would go out on that little boat for a week and 2 weeks at a time.
What a great life, huh?
It was pretty fun. Those were some great memories.
And a pony.
This is a little bit older. We still had a few acres, and so I did 4-H and had a pony, and those were great memories.
So you had a pretty normal life, or was there trouble in the home?
My parents weren't always happy, and that was hard. My parents stayed married, oh gosh, up until my dad passed away a few years ago, and always loved each other, but there was some alcoholism and some unhappiness. And when I look back, I it's just how it went, just how it was. You
Yes.
just
Mhm.
although we were very loved, we were very fortunate. It's just there were times where I'd just go hide in my room and color in my coloring book. I think that's probably when I started escaping to my art, you know.
Thank you
And
so much for sharing that, being vulnerable. This is Courageous Creative Conquerors. And many times I think many adults uh, as children, maybe they did experience not huge trauma, not getting beaten up or anything, but many people experience parents arguing, um, alcoholism, drinking, some things going on there that did cause them to maybe socially isolate and turn to the arts, whether it's music or writing, journaling, drawing. I think that the arts come through when we're trying to heal from those kinds of things.
now that I'm older, when things are hard, I realize there's things that I need to do when I'm unhappy or when
Yeah,
I'm feeling tired.
yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So we're going to look at photos from young adulthood through adulthood with your family and children. The first one here is with your brother, who means a lot to you, great relationship there, and he's a fellow artist. And then we have one of the first photos of you before marrying your husband. This is you with Scott. And then we have here a photo of you with your 3 children, 3 boys here, looking very happy. And then here with your family, with Scott and the boys camping. And here is a photo with Scott, and now the boys are grown up. And then there's this very special photo here.
I included that picture because when I was in my 40s, I suffered what is called sudden sensorineural hearing loss, which it's pretty rare, but I think it happens to about 2,000 people a year, where Within a year, within about an hour, I lost the hearing in this ear. And with that came my balance was gone. You need your inner ears to balance for your vestibular system. And it changed my life forever. I couldn't hear, sound was muffled. I had constant ringing in my ears, and I couldn't walk straight. I did physical therapy, and the reason I included this picture was because I never knew if I would be able to do certain things again. And this was a picture of the first time after that I went skiing.
Yay.
The son, my youngest son, and my new daughter-in-law, Emily.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, my heart goes out to you. I had a similar journey, and it's just devastating to not be able to hear and have to change your life around. And it shows me what a courageous person you are and a creative person to continue and persevere and work through that. How important did the arts become when you lost your hearing? Did that change your relationship with the arts?
It did. It did. You'll see later in the photos pictures of rocks that I would paint. And if I would have an especially challenging day at work, I had a pile of rocks on the table, and I would just come home before I started the chores or fixed dinner, and I'd just sit and paint rocks for 20 minutes, just give myself a little bit of breather, and then go about my day. But I
Yes.
felt like I retreated, not a lot because I didn't have a lot of time, but just more and more to escaping into my art whenever I could fit it in.
And this picture here is of your son.
There's a story with that, in that when he was in high school, he had a series of grand mal seizures, and he was an athlete and was preparing to go to college and trying to get scholarships. And it was a very hard time for me as a mom to watch him go through that. And there was a lot of uncertainty on what he would be able to do and if he'd be able to continue with his running and his life as he knew it. And he did go to college, and he ran and competed all through college. But I love this picture because this was from last year.
Yeah.
He had just finished, I think it was almost 400 miles. So he looks a little tired there and a little dirty, but he looks really happy.
Yes, he certainly does. Yeah. Okay. And here's them after reaching the finish line.
They were the first USA team to finish, and one of the only teams with two women. Every adventure race is a team of race in the elite division is a team of four, and you have to have at least one female. And they were one of the only ones to race with two women. That is his wife, Emily, on the left.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah.
Yes.
Here we're going to take a look at your art now and your love of nature, of the ocean, and the flowers and all that is just really reflected in your art. Let's take a look at that. And so you faced several traumas as a child, as an adult, and as a mother. As a child, watching your parents lose their farm, lose your home, and as an adult, losing your hearing and rising up above that. And then as a mother, feeling lost and helpless, unable to help your child through the trauma of having seizures, but the triumph over trauma. And throughout all this time, one thing has remained constant, which is your love for nature. And we're seeing that right now in these photographs. You love nature photography, taking photographs and being out in nature with your family. And one thing that's a part of that is painting rocks, collecting rocks and painting them with words that are inspirational to you, and also painting seashells. And here's a picture here of a shell with the word hope on it, and other word projects, including paper chains with words on them for friends. Tell me a little bit more about that. Look at all those quotes. So you wrote the quotes, and or some of them you cut them out, and you made a paper chain. Was this for inspiration, for healing, for encouragement of a friend, or what was this for?
Husband was sick and she was caring for him, and so I wrote some of the quotes myself and wrote down verses that I thought she would like, quotes from books, and then I asked friends and gathered all the quotes from friends and just made this beautifully long paper chain, and then she could hang it in her room or the hospital room and just cut one off whenever she felt like it. I try to, sometimes when we don't know what to give to someone, I try to, whenever I can, make something. I feel like it's more meaningful, and then to the left of it says when you feel like laughing, and we made a book of jokes.
Oh, you
And
did.
we had it separate because when you're going through something hard, you don't always feel like laughing. So we had the book be separate, and if she wanted a silly joke, she could go to the book.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I love about you, LeAnn, is that you have this way of combining art with purpose and intention, for the betterment of the world. You're combining words, often words with art, messages. You're sharing it with others. You've come to our creative community calls that we hold, and you say, well, I'm making this for a friend, or this is for, Christmas cards for family, friends, or this is to help cheer someone up. So I think that's a beautiful thing. That's the power of art, is not just creating art, but gifting it or giving it or showing it in a gallery show or sharing it in a group. And you do that. So thank you for doing that.
Well, it's easy. It feels good.
All right, so let's take a look here. We're looking at the place where you create. These are your watercolors, pencils, colored pencils, and ink creations. And we're going to take a quick look through here. Here's where you're creating with the watercoloring. Looks like a beautiful beginning of some flower art, which is really important to you. A bicycle. And of course, an ocean scene with the woman, perhaps you. Here's a tree, colored pencil and ink, and a cabin, watercolor pencil. And tell me a little bit about these leaves here, watercolor leaves. They're just so beautiful. I just love it.
Thank you. That was another, I think it was an online how to paint leaves. And so I went out and got the fall leaves and was playing with them. And each leaf, it was a different watercolor technique. You can kind of see that they all look a little different.
Ah,
Some,
yeah.
some were wet on wet, where you got the paper wet before you put the paint down, and others were dry brush. And
Oh,
yeah,
that's fun. It sounds like you like to play a little bit and just have fun, explore, see what happens.
I do.
Yeah, and look at this. And I love it. I just love the leaves. There's something, the feeling about it. Oh, and this is just magical. Just you shared this and you actually worked on it a little bit in our group, some of this. Yeah.
These were my Christmas cards this year. And what I did was I was learning how to do a night silhouette with watercolor. And I went over the top with a little bit of gouache. I think, did I say that right? Gouache?
Uh-huh.
So that the white would show up on the watercolor. There again, learning. And then what I did later was I personalized them. In the area where the snow was, I wrote a note for every friend.
Oh,
So
how lovely.
I wanted kind of a blank slate so that I could personalize it.
Yeah. And what's the feeling? What's the emotional feeling that you get from this?
Oh, it was a much more meaningful thing for me this year when I sent out Christmas cards. I don't think I've sent out Christmas cards for many years. And I didn't want to just grab nothing wrong with a store-bought card, but I just wanted to make it a little bit more of a connection for me. I feel like I'm been through a lot of busy years, and I'm trying to be more conscious and connect with my friends better.
Wonderful. And so this was like a big step for you to share your art with everyone in this way, wasn't it?
It kind of was. It took a little
A
bit of
turning
bravery.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put my name on there and
Because you said you
forget.
always felt like your brother was the artist, he's the artist, but now you're the artist. You're sending it out, Christmas cards, that's kind of a big turnaround here. And then we have this series of floral art, watercolor, pen and ink, colored pencil. Just beautiful. I absolutely love these. And then it kind of grew into incorporating the words into these flower images with messages. And in fact, one of the beautiful art pieces here is in our book, the Courageous Creative Conquerors book, Grow with Kindness. And thank you so much for contributing to that project, that charitable effort, collaborative art project.
Thank you.
Yeah. What was your motivation in writing these words?
And when I think of gardens, it was interesting that you mentioned the thistles. That when you look at the garden, it's not perfect. You have the planted flowers alongside the weeds, alongside the dandelions and the thistles, and we all have to weed our own gardens. I mean, in your life, you need to nurture and care for yourself and take care of yourself and water your garden. And I just remind myself that as you grow, and I don't mean growing is just as you go through your life, I look at that as growth.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
the kindness is one of the nicest gifts that we can give ourselves and the people around us.
Very good. And then we have this quote, I believe, here you chose from Vincent van Gogh. Yeah, but you read it.
I might have to move us up here a little bit. If you hear a voice within you say you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced.
Yeah, powerful.
That is from the Vincent van Gogh exhibit that is in a lot of major cities right now. If you haven't seen it, it's excellent. But I was amazed to see for an artist of such great, he was just such a wonderful painter that he still questioned himself and his art.
Yeah. Yeah, very inspiring. I hope to see it. Yeah. So before we close, I would love for you to read some of your writing. You're also a creative writer. And if you could just pick one or two pieces to share with us, that would be lovely.
So this was, we were on vacation. It had been a long time since we had taken a vacation, and we were on a island in Hawaii. And I will just read the last part of this. We were driving along the road, and we came around a corner, and there was a beautiful beach. And it was just filled with surfers. And the surfers were so much better than anything else we had seen. And so we pulled off, and we were just standing there in the warm sand watching the surfers. And then an older gentleman came up, and I'll start in the middle of this. We saw him coming along the shoreline. Through the mist of the waves, he walked slowly, standing up straight, carrying his board. As he got closer, I noticed the difference. Age is a hard thing to guess, but he looked at least 3 generations ahead of the other surfers. Resting his board on the sand, he stopped, stood tall and still, watching the waves intently for a few moments before he slowly knelt on the sand. It seemed like a prayer to the ocean, or perhaps was a pre-surfing meditation. I was struck by the feeling that he was paying homage to the waves before him, acknowledging their endless strength as they crashed onto the shore. Watching him, I felt like an intruder on his moment. Something between he and the water before him seemed almost intimate, like I should look away, but I couldn't. Unsurprisingly, he waited, choosing just the right wave, not rushing as he glided in. From our view, he didn't look any different from the youngsters. Nothing flashy, just a good, clean run, and it was over. I almost felt a little let down. His beginning was so different. I realized I'd expected something a bit more, maybe more spectacular. But why? I don't know. His age, his experience. The more I thought about it, the difference was the beginning, the time he took and how he'd shown almost a reverence to the act. Over the next few days exploring this beautiful island, my mind would flash back to that moment of watching the aging surfer, holding his board before him, kneeling in the sand, and feelings washed over me like waves. I will never know his thoughts or why he knelt, but perhaps it was gratefulness for life, of being able to move in nature, still having the strength to do what we have done so many times before, a reminder to slow down, acknowledging how lucky we are to be here, free to feel, to celebrate this one life we have. I can only imagine.
Yay. Why was that moment so special for you, witnessing that surfer?
Well, it really was so different between the kids that were just running back and forth between the waves and having this one solitary old gentleman come up and then realizing that he was going to surf and the way he did it so differently. It was pretty amazing to watch.
Yeah. It seems like a beautiful description of life, of the journey of life, and this respect for life that occurs as we reach the end of it. You know, we treat things a little differently and just savor the moments in life and cherish them, and we have a greater understanding of why we're here, you know, and how to work together with all of the elements, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here today, LeAnn. It's just been really delightful getting to know you. And I feel honored that you were here to share your journey and to share your wisdom and tips with the listeners and viewers today. And is there any last words? Are there any last words you'd like to share?
No. Oh, I have another quote. This is by the famous philosopher Piglet.
Oh, I love his quotes.
The things that make me different are the things that make me me.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you, Piglet. And thank you, all of you, for joining us today at Courageous Creative Conquerors podcast. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. To see more Courageous Creative Conquerors videos, join the weekly creative community calls, or learn more about private sessions, visit jeanvoicedart.com.